guys? Welcome back to the show. I'm super excited for football. For us, it's tomorrow night. I'm super excited for this Chiefs and Lions game. I'm sure you're excited for football too, right?
Of course, like we've been waiting all off season for this. If you couldn't tell by our content, super excited. It's like our bread and butter, and
hmm
we we can't wait. Hope Kelsey's all right. Hope Chris
hmm
Jones gets his contract situation settled. But other than that, like this is gonna be a game for the ages.
hmm Yeah, and there's some other news things going on throughout the NFL right now. We're hopefully going to be making shorts on those pieces, just kind of quick opinion pieces. But today, the main things that we wanted to talk about is, the Thursday night football kickoff game, just kind of previewing that, plus just a couple games that we're excited for come Sunday and Monday for, official first week of NFL football, which, yeah, I've been waiting all off season for, the second Super Bowl finishes. I'm like, come on, draft's done. Okay, let's go do this. Come on, come on, come on. Now it's time for the NFL. So, um, I'm already ready to watch football, but obviously it's still tomorrow, so gotta wait a little bit. But like I said, we're gonna talk about just a little preview of the Lions and Chiefs game. It's kind of some thoughts that we might have on that first. So I guess Josh, do you want to kind of go into Lions and Chiefs, kind of what I guess you're excited for, maybe what you're looking for in this game?
Yeah, obviously, Kelsey news is huge right now. Going through all my fantasy drafts the past week, so in one league I managed to grab him. Other leagues, like he didn't fall to me, like despite me having a six pick. So, a little bit tough. Um, but he is hurt a little bit right now. I think he hyperextended his knee in practice. Um, we'll be getting on the live updates for Kelsey. I think if I were the Chiefs, I wouldn't play him in this game because they're trying to go back to back. Like I think for a week one stretch, it's not worth having him out there like to make it worse. He already has inflammation in his knee. He had tests done. Um, Thankfully, there's no tears, but like with a bone bruise and swelling, you just kind of want to wait for that to die down, not put any stress on it. And like cutting is going to be very difficult for him, like on such a short turnaround. So at this stage, I don't think he's playing week one.
hmm
I would anticipate he won't, and it's probably for the better if you're a
Yeah.
fan or if you're a fantasy owner that you don't have him like this week one because he's
hmm
going to be able to produce all the weeks after at his normal self if he just gets that time to rest. So um, I wouldn't count on Kelsey being in this game. But
hmm
as for storylines, one thing I'm really curious to see is who steps up when Kelsey's out. Who does Patrick Mahomes turn to? I think it's Kadarius Toney when he's on the field. A lot of people are saying Sky Moore takes a leap. It's possible, and throw it out of left field. I also think Justin Ross is going to be a revelation this season. We talked about it on the pod a couple times. We also talked about Tony in our very second episode on which Chiefs weapons are going to stand out outside of Kelsey. Now here we are, first week, trying to figure that out. So
hmm
is it going to be Blake Bell or is it going to be Kadarius Toney? We don't know,
hmm
but it'd be interesting to find that out.
Yeah, obviously, yeah, that is big news for the Chiefs. I don't have Travis Kelsey stocks in any of my fantasy leagues, so in terms of that, I'm kind of chilling there. But like you said, I do think that the Chiefs should think about sitting him out this week. If they go to the Super Bowl, it is a 20 game season, and so rushing back someone early when the last couple games of the season is what really matters. Obviously, makes sense to sit him out here and yeah, I think Tony could have a big game this week. I mean, he's shown that he has big game or big play potential, which is a signature of the Chiefs. It seems just with how crazy they are sometimes. But um, I do think that Noah Gray last season he had a couple good flashes when Kelsey wasn't on the field, and I think that I don't think he's obviously anywhere near the superstar or the Hall of Fame type talent Kelsey is at least right now in his career. I do think that he has some decent playmaking ability. He plays similarly to an extent of being a talented receiver type build at the tight end position, which obviously the Chiefs thrive in. And um, see, that's enough from the Chiefs for me. I don't like the Chiefs because it's a Broncos fan. I think they're the most annoying fan base in the NFL right now. But maybe the Raiders are worse. But anyways, I feel like everyone keeps on forgetting to talk about the Lions just because it is the Chiefs, of course. Um, And I think this will be a really important week for the Lions just because I think it's going to be a big tone setter week for them. Even though, they'll, if they win and Kelsey doesn't play, there's going to be the excuses of, well, Kelsey didn't play, so it's not a real win against a good team. I think that, win or lose, I think having a good showcase of like good play calling on both offense and defense will be really important here for the Lions. I feel like, yeah, like I said just a second ago, it's really good. I mean, really set the tone for how you want this season to go because if they win or they play really good this week, it's easy to see the Lions go maybe 11, 12, even 13 wins this season. But if they start out really bad, things just don't look like they're clicking. The offense they have from last season just seems to suck, and the defensive additions don't really seem to be clicking with the rest of the defense, then this could be just another bad season for the Lions, and Lions will just be sad because all offseason people kind of talked them up, and then having them to kind of fall down to just being 5 to 7 win team would be pretty disappointing.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about the offense on Detroit. I think
Hmm.
obviously the rookies is one thing, how quickly they adjust. Um, that's an important aspect of it. But I think it's more like the running game. They completely revamped their running game. They brought in David Montgomery. They got it. They brought in Jameer Gibbs. I think both of us think Jameer Gibbs is an upgrade over DeAndre Swift in terms of the role in their offense. And like David Montgomery might be a slight downgrade from Jamal Williams. Like in retrospect, when you think about how many touchdowns Jamal Williams scored last season, which was crazy. Um, I don't think David Montgomery will approach that this season, but like he could approximate it. His running style can do a lot more than what Jamal Williams was asked to in that Detroit offense. So um, it'll be interesting to see, does that running game still remain a focal point of that Lions team as well? And um, I think the questions more lie on the defensive side for them.
Hmm.
Do their secondary additions and their linebacker additions, are they enough to like have a functional passing defense? Because that was the one knock on this team. Their secondary was horrible last season. They got butchered, and they made a lot of upgrades in that area. So, what better than to test yourself against the best quarterback in the
Hmm.
league right now, as a revamp secondary, and see how you do, regardless if Kelsey is there or not.
Hmm. Yeah. I don't have really much to add on to that. I, agree with basically everything that you said right here. I'm just excited for football to be back. It's going to be fun watching um, football tomorrow. You know, football's football. Just happy, in a good mood right now. But um, obviously the Chiefs and the Lions isn't the only game in Week One. There's a handful of other games that I'm sure you're really excited for. I'm gonna be excited to see how the Broncos
Wait,
play.
quick thing.
Oh yeah, go
What's a
ahead.
prediction for tomorrow? What do you got the score? Who do you got winning?
The score, huh? Um, Jeez. See. I think we could see, I don't know, a score like 28-31 or something, field goal difference. With the
Okay.
winner, um, I guess being the Chiefs. I don't even remember what I said for my prediction, which is kind of dumb, but
I think
I'm
both of us
assuming
have them beating the Lions.
yeah, so I guess I'll stick by even though there's the question marks around Travis Kelce. He's probably not going to play, but I'm gonna still say the Chiefs probably pull out with this one. I just think they got their system down already, and so on both sides of the ball, which I think gives them the slight edge. And then the Lions, even though they lose, it's a phenomenal showcase of football from them, and they continue to do good the rest of the season.
Yeah, and then quick thing on the Chiefs defense, I don't think we mentioned them. Um, I'm really excited to see how well they develop from like last year's like conference championship game because I thought they were super impressive, especially in those
Hmm.
moments. A lot of young guys stepped up, rookies at that time, so we'll see how they progress from there.
Hmm.
Um, but I also have the Chiefs squeaking by. I think they'll win 35-31. I think it'll be a high scoring affair. There'll be some defense in that game, but I just don't think you can keep Patrick Mahomes under 28
Hmm.
or like 31 with the way he's playing. Um, like over the past couple
Hmm.
seasons, even without Kelsey, I think he'll
Hmm.
find a way to score that now.
Yeah, it's a good take. Yeah, but yeah, like I said a second ago, there's other games throughout the league that obviously sure every fan's excited for their own home team. Just or not, it's not even my home team. I'm a Broncos fan, so I'm obviously excited for the Broncos. um, the big question mark: will Russell Wilson suck again, or was it all Nathaniel Hackett last season, or was it a little bit of both? Well, can't tell until officially, they play week one against the Raiders, and the Raiders are having their own mess of a situation right now. Maybe I'll talk about it a little bit later, but there's angry players apparently, and I don't know. It's a bunch of mess right now with the Raiders. So obviously it sucks for them. But as a Broncos fan, I can't be more than happy to see the Raiders in shambles right now. And so obviously excited. I'm excited to see that. I'm excited to see how the different offensive pieces, especially the offensive line, works with the Denver Broncos this year. Because last season it's a bit of a mixed bag. A couple injuries took place, plus the rotating door at the right tackle position. Just and then all over the course of the offseason, Broncos brought in a lot of pieces, both through the draft and through free agency. So pretty excited about that. Their new right tackle, Mike McGlinchey, I think he was assigned one of the captains for the Denver Broncos this upcoming season. So obviously he's doing something good in camp to prove the rest of the players that, he's captain worthy for the team. But excited for that. Excited to see how the defense rolls out. Obviously, you lose, Elijah Vero as the head or the defensive coordinator, and with that, they brought in your homeboy Vance Joseph from the Cardinals, former Broncos head coach that got fired not too long ago. But we'll kind of see how he coaches up this team. His weakness was in like 2 minute kind of end of game, late stage defense type play calling situation, which is not super good for a Broncos team that had a lot of tight games last season. But hopefully the Broncos are just killing teams all year, so we don't have to worry about any of that 2 minute defense that much this upcoming season. But um, yeah, it's just one game I'm really excited for. Additionally, the Raiders got a new quarterback with Jimmy Garoppolo, and so it'll be interesting to see how things change with the Raiders. Obviously, for me as well, most of my interests are surrounding teams with questionable quarterback play coming into this season. So you'll kind of hear more from me on that. But Josh, I'm sure you're excited about the Bears Packers. Do you want to preview that or a different game or?
Right. I'm obviously excited what the Bears offense looks like. DJ Moore, Justin Fields. I think I've glowed enough about them in our NFC North preview. So obviously very excited about that. I'm really excited about what Khalil Herbert does in the full-time role, and then also excited about what the new Bears offensive line looks like. Because on paper it doesn't look as strong as other teams, but I think the way they're coached up, they're going to be a lot better than people think. And I'm also excited to see the Bears linebacker duo as well. Lot to look forward to in that game. But as as just a football watcher, I'm really excited to see what Jordan Love and the Packers offense looks like because that was a big unknown for us when we went into the season, like trying to predict what the Packers outlook would be. Um, like going from Aaron Rodgers to like largely an unknown in Jordan Love. Like in the preseason, he didn't dissuade me or like answer like major doubts I've had, like because he was inconsistent. So it's more of like a thing where like I feel like he's gonna have highs and lows throughout the season. But week one might be his coming out party, and who knows? Or like it just might be like a day where I'm a Bears fan. I can finally rejoice that we don't have to go up against a Hall of Fame QB every single year, twice in a row, be neck and neck with them and lose it at the end. So um, it could be one of those two things. I'm really excited to see what the Packers receiving core looks like. Everybody knows how high on Jaden Reed I've been. If you watch the podcast, super excited about him. I know Christian Watson's a dog, saved my season last year. Um, and then obviously Romeo Dubs. I'm not a huge truther on him. Um, we talked about Musgrave a little bit. So they have a lot of good pieces outside of their standing running back duo. Their defense is real. Their defense is really good. So it should be a fun matchup um, on both sides. I'll definitely be keeping an eye out. I think the one thing is to see how well does Jordan Love access the field when there's nobody blitzing him and he's just going about naked pass rush or exotic blitzes. How does he navigate that? How does he navigate changing coverages or like getting in and out of the huddle? Like little things and then complex things. Like anybody can throw against man-to-man coverage, but when you have like a cover six, when you have like changing zones on either side of the field, or when you're reading the motion and you're seeing, okay, is the guy trailing and that's man-to-man coverage, or is he staying like zone coverage? Like those kind of things, I want to see, is he able to diagnose that quickly pre and post snap? And that's a lot to ask for in your first game. But I just want to see where his level's at. So before I say, oh, Packers are going to take the North again, another Hall of Fame QB. So
Mhm.
a lot to see there, like from a football watching standpoint.
Yeah, and I'm obviously being from Chicago. I'll be partially tuned into that Bears Packers opening game. I got to give my dad the recap on how the game went as well. He doesn't watch football as much as he used to, so I'm gonna tell him all the deets. Going to tell him that Jordan Love looks like a Hall of Famer regardless, just to mess with him. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Jordan Love plays. um, but yeah, I think another quarterback, or just like I'm talk mostly it's quarterbacks with the teams, but I guess there's two games that aren't at the two teams not playing each other, but the quarterbacks that I'm interested in. They're both going into their second year with the team. One of them is Deshaun Watson and the Browns. Um, Obviously, he is a big question mark. I know that he can be like a top five player in the NFL. I think that's pretty undisputable just with how he's played in the past. And it's the big question mark is can he get back to that form? And I think we saw a little bit of glimpses of that towards the very, very end of the season last year with Deshaun Watson. And obviously the Browns are facing a tough team with, uh, facing the Cincinnati Bengals, I believe. And so um, obviously that'll be a pretty exciting game because, if the Browns just start out on fire, there's throwing the ball like crazy. Deshaun Watson's looking like a monster he was when he was playing with the Texans. Then it's just going to make the AFC a lot more competitive than it already is with its plethora of elite quarterback play. With Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, Mitchell Trubisky, all AFC superstars right there. But um, yeah, but anyways, yeah, I am excited to see how Deshaun Watson plays. The Browns in general, I think, are a fun team to watch. They've sucked for so long. Then they got Baker, which kind of gave them a little jump start. They look, competitive for a little bit, and they're kind of back in that mediocre range. And so it's kind of big to see. Will the trade be worth it for the Browns? Will he really, kick them into high gear, or will this go down as a worse trade than the 49ers trading up to get Trey Lance? But obviously we'll see that week one. But I know you're pretty interested in this game too. But are there any things you're looking for in this game?
Yeah, largely on the Brown side, yeah. I don't have too many questions on the Bengals. I think the
Mm-hmm.
Bengals pretty much all set. Like I'm probably Irv Smith. Really excited to see how he's going to be used
Mm-hmm.
in that offense. Um, you know how much I love Jamar Chase. Had him as
Yeah.
my number one wide receiver, favorite wide receiver. I think it's the best, most elite, you name it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then also Joe Burrow. He had an injury early in camp. Seems like he's all right now. He's clear for practice and games. So I think things will be all right for him there. Um, they're really put together well from front to back. So not too many questions on those. Um, I'm really excited to see how the Browns utilize Elijah Moore. Again, you mentioned Deshaun Watson as well. We know that defense is real. I think they had Daniil Hunter on the Browns, right? I was right about that.
Oh, was it him? I know they got Darius Smith. I don't know if
Zadarius Smith. Sorry, I misspoke. Yep, it's Zadarius Smith for sure. I, I knew it was a player from the Vikings on the D line. I
uh,
just messed up there, but very excited to see what the Browns defense looks like. I think they're very underrated. Um, Miles Garrett's always been a force, so it'll be
mm,
very interesting to see what can they do when they have a functional offense, firing on all cylinders in rhythm. I'm confident that Deshaun Watson can get back to his form. Um, I'm really curious to see how they use Jerome Ford because
mhm,
he's kind of jumping in the Kareem Hunt role. Like he's had an injury that he's coming back from,
mhm,
so um, it'll be interesting to see if he's healthy. How much are they using him versus Chubb?
mhm,
Because historically, they've rarely given Chubb the full workload, despite his talent level. So Are they going to continue doing that? Are they going to give Chubb the full workload? Or are they going to take a chance with Jerome Ford? Because it did let go of Dearness Johnson and still haven't signed
Mhm.
Kareem Hunt, who's still a free agent. So
Mhm.
I think that's a sign, like by their actions, they're confident in Jerome Ford,
Mhm.
but it remains to be seen. So four key things for me: Elijah Moore, Sean Watson, the defense, and then Jerome Ford for me.
Mhm. Yeah, kind of sums it for the Browns. Uh, important things to watch for them. Yeah, it'll be interesting, especially with Elijah Moore. They traded decent capital to get him. Plus, I don't know. There's a lot of young guys on that Browns offense, which makes it pretty exciting at least in the terms of the receiving room right there. They drafted Cedric Tillman this last draft as well, which I know you're pretty high on him coming into the
Yeah.
draft this season alongside Jaden Reed. And then um, additionally, last year they had David Bell, I think, and I know it's
I'm
his
high on David Bell too as well.
Mhm. Yeah, his lack of play time kind of makes me think that he potentially is just another guy, which isn't awful in terms of NFL. He might be just, a decent role player, maybe like, good rotational guy in terms of a receiving room, which is, it's pretty solid to have. And he could be elite at that type of playing in the NFL. But again, there's a lot of young talent on that room, so it's really up in the air who's going to shine out of that group. I know Amari Cooper's looking good. He's looked good for a while now. But yeah, there's it's
I
an
think he's
exciting thing to watch.
undervalued. Like, just
Hmm.
quickly, I'm like in the fantasy realm, I thought he was undervalued
Hmm.
compared to other wide receivers because I would just
Yeah.
see guys like Chris Godwin, Mike Evans be taken away from him. And yeah, they've had the credentials with like good quarterback play, and
Hmm.
like even with Jameis Winston, they had high values. But like Amari Cooper's the wide receiver one on that team with a quarterback who's getting back in rhythm in an offense that doesn't depend on him as the focal point, is Nick Chubb,
Hmm.
and that's gonna help him get open. I think
Hmm.
he's gonna have a really good season as well. He's a guy I
Hmm.
was targeting a lot because I was just like, why is he going after so many dudes? Like he would go off the board as like the 15th or like
Hmm.
25th best receiver when his ceiling is a little bit higher than that, way higher than that.
Uh,
So I'm also excited about him.
yeah, he was putting up pretty good numbers with Jacoby Brissett last season at the start, and I mean,
There you
Jacoby's
go.
no
Yeah.
like he's not a scrub or anything, but I mean, Jacoby there's a reason he's not technically
There's
a
a
scrubber
difference in
right
the
now.
dynamicism between him and Deshaun Watson. Like
Yeah, yeah.
when Deshaun Watson gets rolling in the pocket from what we've seen in 2017 and 2018, like
Hmm.
when he's rolling out in the pocket and he's throwing something, creating, like he's thrown it like to Hopkins,
Hmm.
his like most trusted targets, and
Hmm.
the trusted target here is going to be Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
So people should be excited
Hmm.
about that.
Yeah. Be fun. I don't have that many Amari Cooper stocks this year in fantasy, but I mean, most people have done their drafts already, so it's not really. I mean, if you trade for him, trade for him, but it's about as much as I can give you advice now for uh, Amari Cooper right now. But um, yeah, I mean, do you have another game? I guess I know I kind of led you into
Dolphins
the
and
Browns one,
Chargers.
but
If people know, like, remember the draft between Tua and Justin Herbert? They're picked back to back. Um, And I think a lot of the spotlight's been unfairly placed onto us since then. Um, Wrong system, didn't have the surrounding cast and like he needed until they drafted Waddle. Then the
hmm.
next offseason they got Tyreek Hill, brought in Mike McDaniel, and all of a sudden they end up having the most efficient and most explosive offense when he was healthy. And I'm just super excited to see how this looks against the Chargers' new look offense coordinator, Brandon Staley's offense. And I'm super excited to see Quentin Johnson. Super excited to see Waddle, Hill. Um, I'm really excited to see, can the Dolphins still do it against like
Hmm.
another playoff caliber team right in the mix. These teams are evenly matched in my opinion. It's a shame that Jalen Ramsey's hurt because
Hmm.
that Dolphins D line. I remember you telling me they look scary, man. They look
Hmm.
scary. I'll be interested to see how they do against the Chargers online. Um, we all know how much of a baller Derwin James is. We both had him
Hmm.
like among our top safeties. I had him at one. I think you had him at two. Um,
Hmm.
and then obviously Khalil Mack, almost a Nick Bosa, who got a massive extension, but today, but Joey Bosa. Um, a lot to look for in this matchup. A lot of stars. Should be a lot of fun. I think this is one of the later games. If you get a chance to watch it, this is the
Mhm.
one to watch.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that'll just be a really fun game to watch. Um, there's, I guess, too many players within that game that I'm like super keying into per se, but yeah, I think it's going to be a good classic game of football that I think literally anybody can have fun watching. I feel like it's like almost like a little storyline in itself with, like you said, Justin Herbert and Tua going head to head in a quarterback battle right there. But um, I guess another team or another game that I'm pretty excited to see this upcoming week as well is team that I briefly mentioned a second ago, or not a second ago, just a little bit ago, was the 49ers versus the Steelers. And with this game, I mean, both defenses, I think we talked about a lot. Both have a lot of elite players on defense, both in that front seven and in the secondary, which it could be a pretty tough game for both teams' offenses. But the offenses are what I'm actually really excited to see for both of these teams, especially with the 49ers. Brock Purdy, he is coming back from a pretty bad injury. He got an arm injury is never good for a quarterback to have, and that's what Brock Purdy had. And it'll be pretty interesting to see, can he, get back to form in terms of what he was doing last season. And I know his like strength isn't necessarily, his big deep ball gameplay, game breaking type playmaking ability, but but like yeah, so it's not that. And so I think that the injury, while it sucks for him being a thrower, it does, his play style does lend into the fact that he doesn't have to be making those plays. He's a really smart, calculated type quarterback, and so we'll just kind of see if he can get back into form and see how well that 49ers offense is clicking, especially, you got a second year with him being the guy in technical off season training, even though again he was hurt for basically all of it. But you get Christian McCaffrey back healthy, you got Elijah Mitchell, he's going to be back and healthy. George Kittle, he always seems hurt because I think he's questionable right now. But you got a lot of good pieces. That should be pretty fresh coming to the season. Then on the other side, you got the Pittsburgh Steelers, which I think going into last or the beginning of the offseason, I think a lot of people look down on this Steelers offense, thinking that there's gonna, in a way, be holding back the Steelers team from being really competitive this year. And I think in our uh, record predictions for the Steelers team, we said that their wins will be because of their elite defense, and I think their defense will contribute mostly to the fact of their wins. But through the preseason and some of that off-season camp hype, Kenny Pickett's been getting a lot of praise. He's looked really good in preseason. He looks like he's ready to take the next step in the NFL, which um, will just make their division a lot more competitive too. But you got Pat Fryermuth, who, I mean, he's had a bunch of concussions, but he's shown that he can make he's a pretty solid tight end to have on your team. Plus, you got a lot of unique wide receiver talent on your team that literally any one of them can explode anywhere from the veterans like Allen Robinson to younger players like Calvin Austin for all we know. Plus, um, they also drafted a tight end, Darnell Washington, a guy that received a ton of draft hype that ended up falling a little bit, which I guess is pretty nice for the Steelers there. But
Even from
again,
you,
yeah,
I know you were excited about Darnell Washington when we were previewing the tight ends.
yeah, and I think like um, at least from what I heard, there's some like medical clearance that I guess he didn't have full or something like that during the draft process, which I guess knocked him down a bunch. But regardless, I think the Steelers got a pretty big steal in the draft getting Washington there. But
Nice pun there.
um, yeah, I didn't even notice until I was about to say it. But um, yeah, so I'm just, even though they're both technically facing difficult defenses that it might be a hard week one for both of them. I'm pretty excited for both the 49ers and that Steelers offense.
Yeah, and um, even the Steelers, like even if Kenny Pickett like is throwing inaccurate balls, like they got a receiver right now in the second year that can make acrobatic, otherworldly catches and Pickens. Like I saw
Mm-hmm.
the one where he made over Joey Porter Jr. and Joey Porter Jr. had like great defense. It was a great selection by Steelers in the first round draft. Um, and like Pickens just like reached on the other side one
Mm-hmm.
handed like caught it and just like fell
Mhm.
down. It was a perfectly placed ball by Pickett, but it's like incredible adjustment by Pickens, and I'm just like, is
Mhm.
this a sign of what's to come for the Steelers offense? Because we got to add another team to the mix
Mhm.
now, and
Yeah.
I think before the preseason previewing this team was really tough because we're like, how much of a jump is Kenny Pickett going to take? Is he going to take a jump? And I think this first game is going to be a perfect barometer of
Mhm.
that. Um, I'm interested to see what San Francisco looks like without D'Amico Ryans as a D coordinator.
Mhm.
I think
True.
that's storyline is not talked about enough because everybody's just like, oh, their defense is real. Their defense is amazing. And granted, their front four is like scary. But I'm interested to see the new defensive coordinator coming in. Is
Mhm.
there a drop off that on like how he game plans or like how he calls plays that's different from D'Amico? Like I'm really interested to see that. Um, and then you mentioned Brock Purdy. I'm excited for Ayuk. I think this is the first season where
Mhm.
Ayuk is going to be like the focal point wide receiver of this
Mhm.
offense, and he's never been tasked with that role before. I've never been a huge fan of Debo Samuel as a
Mhm.
receiver. I think he's like great as like a gadget guy and like run after the catch, like scheme him open type plays.
Mhm.
And he can run some routes, but I just look at Ayuk and I feel like he can run every route in the book. And I'm excited to see Purdy rely on him and utilize him a ton when
Mhm.
the schematic plays are taken away from the 49ers, which is a rarity. But
Mhm.
really excited for his prospects as well.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I think Ayuk has a really good chance right here. To establish himself as that, I guess, game wrecker in that receiver room. Obviously, George Kittle when he's playing, he's probably going to always be that game wrecker. But obviously, there's still slightly different skill sets and types of plays that you call for wide receivers and tight ends. And so I think that
I
uh,
mean, they're all dogs,
I
so like they're just
mhm,
loaded from top to bottom, wide
yeah.
receivers and running backs, right?
Yeah, and what I think it makes it great is the fact that all their skill positions just have such a unique, I guess, play style that really isn't replicated anywhere else, like to the exact way that they're used in that offense. Because I mean, you can say that Debo Samuel and Kittle have the same physical way of playing, but you know, obviously Debo Samuel, they've literally played him at running back at times, whereas Kittle, he's just like a monster. He's basically an offensive lineman that has game wrecking receiving ability, which is pretty crazy too from that tight end
And don't
spot.
forget about use check. Like, how many
Hmm.
fullbacks are running slant routes or drag routes and like getting 10-yard gains on a regularity like that? Like, forget
Yeah.
like look at how he's using the formation. Like to your point, the way they're game planned and like the purposeful like actions they put these guys through to put them in situations to score, like
Hmm.
it's amazing.
Yeah. So I mean that's why I'm excited for the 49ers this week. And um yeah, and are there any other, I guess, I know there's maybe like one or two more teams that I'm excited about, but I'm sure you got a couple other teams that you wanted to talk about. So
Yeah, I was gonna talk about the Bills and Jets, but I'll let you have that one if you want. Looking at this game, I'm also curious to see the Eagles and the Patriots.
mm,
Um, like, because Bill Belichick figured out something against Jalen
mhm,
Hurts in Week 1. I'll be interested to see that because
mhm,
we know there's always been like a bad connotation with teams who have lost the Super Bowl and the
mhm,
following season, what that looks like.
mhm,
Like the Falcons have never been the same since that Super Bowl loss. I think the Bengals are the only outlier of like teams that are actually
mhm,
been consistently like good after losing a Super Bowl. And that was a close Super Bowl that they played against the Rams.
mhm,
I'll be interested to see what the Eagles look like. We think they're still gonna like be the cream of the crop in the NFC,
mhm,
but if there's something schematically found out about this team, it's Belichick is gonna figure it out. So I'm really excited to
mhm,
see what the Eagles offense looks like against this Patriots defense. But I think the bigger
mhm,
thing to look at is what does this Patriots offense look like with a functional play caller? I think that will be
mhm.
really interested to see. Like I have a lot of Ramondre Stevenson shares. I think he was also undervalued in fantasy, but I'll be interested to see how they use him and Elliott in the running back room
Mhm,
because Stevenson proved he's a bell cow, and I don't think Elliott's diminished his ability to get the third and threes and the touchdowns and like the goal line situations. Like I think he still is a value add in that
mhm.
standpoint.
Yeah.
And I was always a fan of Mac Jones. Like I think there's this
Mhm,
one game against the Colts where he went neck and neck with the teams. Like it was a shootout, and like I've just been impressed with him ever since then. I think he caught a bad rap in his third season. First one, he showed a lot of promise. Everybody's like, why did everybody pass on Mac Jones? And then last season, oh, is Mac Jones going to get surpassed by Bailey Zappi? And forgetting that it was like two offensive coordinators, like two different play callers. They don't have like that one wide receiver one like I'm scared of yet. We think they have a couple development pieces, but I'll be really interested to see that game because I think it'll be a lot closer than people think.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that'll be an interesting game as well. I still think the Eagles probably win that game, but I think the Patriots they show a lot of interesting new looks. Yeah, I'm a fan of Mac Jones going into this season. I know I haven't necessarily seen too much to I guess prove to me that he's going to be super great, but um, I mean, like historically, there has been a sophomore slump for quarterbacks, and so I mean, you kind of see that last season, and hopefully there's a rebound year. I think, especially just with some of the history that we've seen from recent quarterbacks that get drafted in the first round, people expect them to be, you know, playoff caliber immediately, and I think we've seen a few cases of guys that kind of maybe start off slow or like with kind of flashes of goodness or greatness, but mostly overshadowed by poor play, like Josh Allen, who he started out pretty rough in his career, and people were calling out for him to get traded, released, or something before his breakout year. Trevor Lawrence obviously started out pretty poorly his rookie year. I mean, you can kind of call that year a wash with their head coaching, but um, I mean, even last year he kind of started out a little bit slow, but as the season went on, he started to look really, really good. And so I think guys like Kenny Pickett and Mac Jones are types of guys that maybe their rookie year or their first bit of experience in the NFL is probably going to be pretty rough. And I would even say that Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, and Anthony Richardson will also kind of face similar struggles in their first couple seasons before, if they do have that type of potential to, or I guess innate quality to be good, will be good eventually. But I think it's just kind of this is like this group of quarterbacks that start off slow, that eventually can play pretty well. And I mean, we've even seen super late bloomers like Geno Smith, who he started out pretty bad as well, and to the point where he didn't win a good starting season into his 30s, and so I mean. I think these are just Pickett and Mac Jones are both quarterbacks that just take some time for them to develop, but will be serviceable guys throughout their career.
Right, right. And I also think um, it'd be interesting to see how the weapons are used because
Hmm.
I like Butte, I like Smith Schuster, I like
Hmm.
Mike Gesicki as
Hmm.
like role players. I think Butte can be a number one wide receiver. I just think he's not ready yet. And then
Hmm.
also Taekwon Jordan. They got Demario Douglas, who was shining. So they got
Hmm.
some guys, but they don't have the guy. If you're telling me Juju
Hmm.
Smith Schuster's your number one wide receiver, then I'm sorry, you don't have a reliable guy to go to on
Hmm.
third down, third and long
Hmm.
that can win
Yeah.
one-on-one matchups. Like I don't see that guy on there. It's probably Stevenson, who's the running back. Um, and that's just too much to ask of a running back like that to carry the team.
Hmm.
So like I think there will be some like flaws that are like out of Mac Jones's control. But if you get a guy like Hunter Renfro on that team like mid-season, like look out because like he's a guy that like just had like a top 10 season 2 years ago and is almost like phased out of the offense in Las Vegas. And I feel like he's the perfect guy for like the Patriots system on how they
Hmm.
utilize slot receivers as their focal point. And like it could easily turn around from that standpoint. So I'm curious.
Hmm.
I definitely think the offense will improve. It's just like how much because we know their defense is going
Hmm.
to always be coached up well and
Yeah.
schematic to make you play your left hand as an offense. So is the offense going to be good enough to stay in the game against the Eagles? Because the
Hmm.
Eagles have the more talented team. They should win this game. But if we know anything about facing Belichick, like he's going to even the odds as much as he can and bring it down to the wire.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, Gone through just about half of the games already so far, and
Yeah.
so I don't know if how many more we want to do, but I know you're really excited about the Bills and Jets, especially with Aaron Rodgers on the Jets. So maybe we can do that plus one more team. I don't know. We'll kind of see how it goes. But obviously, Jets with Aaron Rodgers is a huge talking point. It's literally been the talk of all offseason, especially with Zach Wilson, breathing down his throat, saying that he's going to make his life hell and everything. Before Aaron Rodgers, it was officially Aaron Rodgers. But um, yeah, I know this is going to be an interesting game to see. It'll be a big test for the Jets. Just the Bills being a yearly monster team to go against. And so um, we'll see how well the Jets defense plays against an elite offense, and we'll just see if an elite the Jets offense can compete with an elite offense like the Bills. But I know you have a lot more specific things that you wanted to say about them, so you can go ahead.
Um, just a big thing to highlight. I think you already mentioned it. Are the Jets on the Bills level? That's what it comes down to. Like they got the quarterback now. We know their defense is real. Like, is it enough? Um,
Mhm,
but like I think from the schematic standpoints, like on the Jets side, I've never been a fan of like the receivers outside of Garrett
mhm,
Wilson. So
mhm,
I'm curious to see how they're used schematically. Can they throw enough changeups against like an elite defense like the Bills? So the Bills don't focus all their energy on stopping Garrett Wilson.
mhm,
I think the guy you want to utilize a lot is Tyler Conklin, and
mhm,
he's the tight end for that team, the starting tight end. I think he could do a lot of good things, and if I were the Jets, I'd be doing that because like
mhm,
Lazard is good, but you got to scheme him open. Like
mhm,
McCole Hardman is a guy you got to scheme open definitely. Like we know they got a running game now, but they've always had it. Brees Hall's coming back from injury. They're four deep that way, and they're starting Dalvin Cook. I think it's going to be huge for them. It's going to help Brees out so much. Um, so they got the running game. It's just the secondary and third receivers for me. Like who's going to step up when Garrett Wilson's taken out of the fold? Like
mhm,
how like you could easily scheme against Garrett Wilson to take him out,
mhm,
no matter how gifted he is. It's just who's going to win that. So
mhm,
that's curious to see. I don't think they'll have that answer for their first game. So if
mhm,
the Bills win because of that, I won't be surprised. On the Bills
mhm,
side, again, another guy I've been talking about all off season who I'm excited for, Dalton Kincaid. Um, I can't wait to see how they use this team. I don't know how they're going to use him. It might be slow,
mhm,
but you got to think of him as a wide receiver, not a tight end. No
mhm,
way he's going to be used in this offense. There's a reason why they got him despite having Dawson Knox because he's basically
mhm,
like their big slot guy who functions as a wide receiver. He's going to surprise people. They're going to think it's a two tight
mhm,
end set, but it's really three wide with the way he plays. And I think it's just going to open up so many layers for the Bills. I'm really excited about James Cook. This is his first time in the starting running back role, and then also Damian Harris because I feel like they're trying to establish like a Detroit's running game kind of in the way they're utilized. So I think Damian Harris is going to be huge to lessen the load on Josh Allen,
mhm,
like running constantly near the goal line. I think it's
mhm,
going to simplify things so Josh Allen can stay more durable. And I think this Bills team should be favored. They got the defense. Micah Hyde and
mhm,
Jordan Poyer are coming back. That's going to be a huge boom for them. Von Miller's coming back
mhm,
eventually. But top to bottom, I think the thing that comes down to is are the Jets on the Bills level, team to team? And
mhm,
the specifics I highlighted on their offense is going to play a factor into that. But what it comes down to, can their stars match up to the Bills stars?
mhm. Yeah, I think you brought up a lot of really good points there. Yeah, I know when we did our uh, preview of their division, a big talking point was outside of Garrett Wilson, who is the next man to, at least in the receiving room, who is that next man to stand up and stand out for that offense? I think, yeah, Tyler Conklin, like you said, is a pretty big piece. But I do question, I guess my question is if theoretically, Garrett Wilson is taken out of the game or he gets hurt or whatnot. I don't feel
When I
like
say
Tyler
taken out
Conklin.
of the game, I more mean like schematically.
Yeah, I know. I meant
Like,
so either
like
schematically or injured.
right, right,
Um,
right, right.
and so in the situation where you can't rely on Garrett Wilson to be the guy for your offenses, but I'm just in general talking about. But um, with that, I think that Conklin is a good, regardless of who's the number one. I think he's a good secondary option at best, at least from what I've seen from him.
I
Um,
think so too. I think so too. He hasn't been used that way, but I think given the state of their personnel, he is that guy. I'm just
mhm,
I'm just wondering what kind of calls are they going to make for the wide receivers,
mhm,
like because they can only run specific routes. Like you can't open up
mhm,
a playbook for them, like as number one options for
mhm,
go-to guys, like the same way you can for like Garrett Wilson, because
mhm.
they have
Yeah.
limited route trees. So that
Mhm.
that was my question mark. But you might
Yeah.
be you might be right about that with Conklin. I can see him as functioning as a secondary option there.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see if, anyone outside of, I guess, Wilson can really break out of that mold that they already have in terms of what people like perceive of them as, receiving talents on the team. For all we know, it could be some random player just buried down the depth chart for that Jets team that ends up taking that, you know, opposite role to Garrett Wilson on that offense, which will be a pleasant surprise, I think, for a lot of Jets fans, especially, a lot of question marks for the Jets right now in terms of who's the next man up out in that receiving game after Garrett Wilson. But I liked a lot what you said about the Bills as well. Even though they are a team that's repeating as a contender, as another Super Bowl favorite, basically. There's a lot of, I guess, pieces coming back. There's a lot of change happening within that team, a lot of new pieces and whatnot. And so I think they're an exciting team to watch as well in terms of, because I mean, if half of the guys coming back from injury plus the guys that they recently acquired end up being pretty awful this season, I think that'll be a pretty big setback for the Bills. I mean, out of their safeties, let's say one of them reverts back to form and the other one ends up just regressing from here on out. Plus, let's say Kincaid has, Dawson Knox is fine as a guy to have, but if Kincaid, he struggles his rookie year, which like most tight ends do, they do struggle in that first year. And hopefully they're not relying on him too much to be that number, I guess, two focal point in that offense, even though they got plenty of other pieces that could be that number two guy. But so there's a lot of question marks, but it's like a lot of fun question marks, which makes me pretty excited for this team because like sure they have guys that could suck, but like they'll still be good regardless. But it'll be kind of just interesting to see whether they're you know eat like Super Bowl favorites outside of the Chiefs, or if they're just like a lower tier playoff team, which kind of like the Ravens, I guess. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this Bill season goes. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, those are kind of the games that I'm excited for. I mean, there's a few other games that obviously have exciting pieces, but I think these games, at least we talked about, are kind of like the main ones I'm really excited for, excited to see. Um, but yeah, do you have anything else you wanted to add in terms of games
Yeah,
or?
just a quick thing on the Bills. I completely didn't mention Khalil Shakir. I think it's possible he can wind up having a
Mhm.
breakout game today, like not today, but like Monday, like when they play.
Yeah.
And like it's possible he becomes like the second or third option, like out of nowhere, and then
Hmm.
Gabe Davis is like completely phased out. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see from that standpoint. But um, I guess one little fun thing I wanted to ask, like, who's one player that you think is just gonna break out week one, and he's gonna be like in the MVP running, similar to like how Tua was before he got hurt? Who do you think's that guy?
Dang. I don't know, man. That's a. I mean, like, there's guys that like. I'm not gonna talk about guys I guess we already talked about in terms of
No, you
we
can.
think are
You
going to
can
be
if
good.
you want to.
Well, there's like Trevor Lawrence, but I feel like we've hyped up Trevor Lawrence enough, at least,
That's
especially from the
that's a good
back end
pick.
of last season.
That's a good pick.
But no, I don't know. I'm thinking. I guess with a good showing, Deshaun Watson could easily be in that discussion. I think Lamar Jackson, especially facing the Texans, could be an easy candidate for like if he has like a 200 plus pass yards plus like 80 plus rush yards with 34 touchdowns, which is really, in my opinion, seems pretty feasible for the Ravens going against the Texans. I think a performance like that could easily be a reminder for people that Lamar was an MVP in the past and could potentially win MVP this season too. But I'll have Lamar and Deshaun Watson as my, I guess, potential breakout MVP guys from week one.
Right, right. I think you're probably wondering my answer to this as well. Um, I'd say Lamar too. That's a good
Mhm,
pick. I would agree with that. Um, if we're going quarterback strictly, I would think it's Justin Herbert too. Can't
mhm.
forget about
Yeah,
him. New offensive
true.
system,
Oh
added
yeah, I
weapons.
forgot. Yeah.
He's another guy that definitely keep an eye on. I think they're right up there with the Chiefs,
Hmm.
to be honest, as far
Hmm.
as like talent level.
Yeah.
I think they could easily compete there. Um, if we're talking about like non QBs, one guy I'm really excited to see, like from a wide receiver standpoint, DJ Moore.
Hmm.
DJ Moore. I think he's about to have a breakout year. Like
Hmm.
or like when I say breakout year, I'm like he's still gonna produce like 1,000 yards at minimum, like on the
Hmm.
floor. But like he's capable of a 1,400 yard season.
Hmm.
Um, and I think he's gonna be a reason why the Bears have like a top 10
Hmm.
offense, in my opinion. I think
Yeah.
he's kind of like that AJ Brown factor,
Hmm.
like the Jamar
Yeah.
Chase factor, like the Tyreek factor
Hmm.
that's gonna elevate the team. So I'm really excited for those quarterbacks and the wide receiver
Hmm.
home.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I'm just excited for football. It's gonna
Same
be
man.
so fun to
We let him long
draft.
enough. Waited way too long.
See my fantasy draft strategy go to absolute shambles after all the guys I drafted just play awful week one, and I'm like, oh dang it, but no.
Yeah. I think I had like the worst draft somewhere like in like ESPN projections and Yahoo.
Mhm.
And my starting running backs in my Yahoo league is a 14 teamer. It's Cam Akers and Deion Jackson because I drafted Jonathan Taylor. I think I have Jonathan Taylor everywhere. Like
Mhm.
he might be another guy on this list like later in the season that people don't see coming because like he hasn't played in a minute. Um, so I have Jonathan Taylor, and then pretty
Mhm.
sure I have Michael Thomas in all my leagues.
Mhm.
So so it could be either really good or why did I make those decisions after like
Mhm.
week 5 or so? But I'm
Yeah.
excited for it.
Mhm. But yeah, so I think that's for the most part all we have for today then. Try to keep updated. Maybe during the games we'll have some quick reaction bits. If if we're not too busy during them. But obviously, we're going to be watching the games. Hope you guys watching the games. Make sure to keep up with us on our Instagram as well at amon.a.mission. We're trying to pump out a little bit more content there. You probably see me have a new reel plus a few posts going over some older podcast topics, but we're obviously really excited to kind of see how things go. But yeah, remember to follow us. Peace out.
Peace.